Dear viewers, warm greetings to you all. Suicides are not uncommon in Kashmir, but there's a sudden and a rapid increase in the number of deaths since 2020, particularly in this very present year. 157 deaths have been suicide deaths have been recorded just in the year 2020. And we see an ever increase this year also. Suicide is thus a silent crisis that we have ignored so far, and it took the pandemic to awaken us to the crisis. Such sinister deaths are profoundly devastating for the society, as the deaths are mostly of very young adolescents or men and women up to the age group of 32 or 33 years. Such deaths leave families shattered. Disturbingly, the parents, they remain unaware of the pain that their children are undergoing. And later on, they blame themselves for not being able to understand. We will try to know the reasons and the underlying issues of suicides and much more. Spark the Peace Builders have invited an eminent expert, psychiatrist, Dr. Junaid Nabi, who is also Assistant Professor Psychiatry in GMC Srinagar, and Mr. Wasim Ahmed Kakru, who is a well-known clinical psychologist from IMHANS Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Srinagar, to talk upon over the topic. Suicide is not the solution, the underlying issues. That's our topic for today. I welcome both of you on today's discussion. So, Dr. Junaid, starting with the discussion and opening up the topic, let's understand what is suicide. Are there any particular types of suicide?
See, when we talk about suicide, it is, if we break it into two words, it's like that we kill our own self. And let me broaden the two types. One is called planned suicide, and second is impulsive. The planned suicide is something where a person has already decided when, where, and how a person will commit suicide. And their chances are more where suicide will be complete. And there is something called impulsive suicide, where a person has not decided anything regarding suicide, but there has been an event which led it to happen, like someone has obtained less marks, or there was an altercation with parents or siblings, or there was a failed relationship, or financial issues. So then a person impulsively takes a decision that he is not happy with his life or her life, and he will take up this decision of committing suicide. So they usually take help of any poison which is available at their home, or any sharp object. But usually this has been seen that it is not a complete suicide. And if we talk about reasons, there are a number of reasons for that. And there has been a growing trend, which we also called as copycat mechanism or copycat method, where a person has done it.
Sorry to intervene you, Dr. Junaid. We'll come to that later on.
Sure.
Dr. Junaid, can you tell me, is suicide a mental health ailment, and does it really warrant medical attention?
Yes. See, if a person has taken up this decision, obviously he or she has been going through some traumatic event or some stressful event, because this is something a person will never want if everything is fine in his or her life, because life is very precious, and everyone will have a life for only one time. So everyone will like to utilize it to the fullest. But if we take into consideration mental health issues like depression, anxiety, psychosis, where suicide has been seen that it is on a rampant because of their mental health issues. And if we take into consideration other things, there I will say that this act is a selfish act, because if a person is taking this decision, and he he is not having any mental ailment, active mental ailment, but he has impulsively taken it. So that this makes it a selfish act. Why? Because he, while
Does not
taking this decision, he has never thought about his parents, his siblings, his friends, his relatives. What will happen to them when he will be no more in this world? Because it has been seen that a person who dies, world never stops running, it goes on,
no
and
one is
it should
indifferent.
not. Exactly, and no one should feel that, or someone will be having that thought that if I will die, and his or her family or parents won't live, they will live, but that scar will be with them. So we have to take that into consideration, and I believe we have to work a lot into this thing, because when we talk about suicide, we talk about mental health, and when we talk about mental health, there is so much of stigma related to it. So we have to do, it is, I think it's not only our domain as specialists. I will feel every common man has to play a role to break this stigma, so that when a person wants help, he or she should not have a second thought while obtaining treatment. Because if you take into consideration our branch, psychiatry, if someone will tell anyone to go for a psychiatric consultation or psychologist consultation, they will say, "Buchusa pagal." So this
Right.
is something we need to break, and I believe even everyone has to play a role to break this thing.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, can you tell me, can suicide be diagnosed? Are there any tests that will predict the suicidal tendency in a person?
Yes, see, when a person comes to us, we in psychiatry, we don't have any laboratory tests. We have those diagnostic tests, and we all depend on our history taking. And Wasim Saab will agree with me. There is something called mental state examination, where we will examine a person and we will question a person in detail, where all the things are being asked. And there is some, we do ask about depressive symptoms, and suicidal ideation is one of the symptoms of severe depression. So we take that into account, and there are a number of scales which help us to know how severe a person is, how severe depression a person is having, and how much tendency a person has to commit suicide. But primarily, to that to happen, a person should reach to a psychiatrist and a clinical psychologist. That is a primarily thing which we should agree that it is a illness, it is a mental health issue, and we have to go to a specialist to seek help, rather than just shying away from it, and thinking what society will say, what relatives will say, and leading it to this deleterious effect of suicide. So I would again say that stigma has to break, to make an end to this thing.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Your point is well taken. Kindly tell our viewers, we'd like to understand what is the difference between the psychiatric approach and the psychological approach.
See, when a
Is there a
person
difference between
comes to,
evaluation of a person when we evaluate a person's suicidal tendency? Is there a difference of approach between psychiatric approach and a psychological approach?
see, when a person comes to us, if he has come to us first, a psychiatrist, we will evaluate, we will take a short history, because there's something called rapport. To build that rapport, we need multiple sessions of consultation as well as counseling. So when a person comes to us, if a patient is having depression with suicidal tendencies or ideation, we will prescribe medicines, and then we will send our patient to a clinical psychologist. They will do some therapies, some scales will be applied on that. So their usually their sessions are extended at least from 45 minutes to 1 hour, so that building rapport for them is a bit easier as compared to us. We have to see a number of patients, and we usually give medicines. So I won't say that. Yeah.
So I would like to amplify this. This would be when a person approaches a psychiatrist, that is the first line of treatment. Then that person is referred to the psychology, clinical psychologist.
Psycho,
Not further. So it goes
right.
that
Because,
way.
yeah, because there is something called neurotransmitters. In layman language, we call them hormones. So there is deficiency in those. There are few you might be aware about that: serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine. They are very important hormones which are associated with our mood and about agility and about motivation. So there is deficiency in these. So those hormones can be increased. Their concentration can be increased through medicines. But it has been seen when both pharmacology, that is our medicine, pharmacotherapy, and psychotherapy, that is Wasim Saab's domain, counseling, when they go both hand in hand, then the outcome is faster, smoother, and better.
Thank you.
So sometimes a patient would go to a clinical psychologist, and then it is a vice versa. They will evaluate, and if they feel a person is a need of medicines, because when a patient comes to us, the first thing, if we think of putting them on medicine, they will say, ये क्या एडिक्टिव में दवाई है, हमारे को पूरी जिंदगी खानी पड़ेगी. So
That's
that
what
is
I was
also
going to
something.
ask.
No,
Because are these medicines, steroidal medicines, antidepressant medicines, do the patients need to take it lifelong, or is it just a short-term treatment?
no. See, if we talk about this anxiety, depression, usually it is for few months. When a person is absolutely fine, then we taper it off and then we stop it. But there are few
I'm unable to hear you, Doctor.
where we may have to no continue treatment for a very long time.
So are these drugs that you prescribe, are they effective in decreasing the suicidal tendencies in a person?
Yes, definitely yes, they are.
Okay.
And I believe when a person is on those medicines, they are happy with the treatment. But it is only when a person will reach to us that is an issue.
Right. Dr. Saab, in most cases of suicide, what we see, the reason seems to be drug addiction or domestic violence or even stress or even disillusionment after a breakup in a relationship. Are these circumstantial triggers but the cause lies somewhere in the mental health?
Some people
Reason and cause is different.
Everyone has a different type of a personality. Some are very sensitive. When we talk about sensitive people, they are very prone to have mental health issues, because they take everything to heart and they get hurt very easily, and they are very fragile mental health wise, so they are a bit prone to get all these issues. So if those people will face such effects, like a person is having a relationship, or there is financial issues, or there is a marital discord, or any issues, so that can lead to happen. But some are very much introvert. They don't take things to heart. They are very much easygoing. For them, getting into having that fragility of mental health is comparatively less, and they are less prone to develop mental health issues. So regarding that substance abuse, if I say that it is just going like a pandemic, I may say that I'm not wrong, because it's like on a very much on a higher way. Yeah, it is just rising like anything. And I will say that suicide, usually because of overdose, this can happen. Death, but I am not sure how common is a person who is having substance abuse issues and suicide. But if we talk about other things, like you had already said, that marital discord or stress itself causes depression, anxiety, they are more common to have suicidal tendencies and ideations.
Perhaps we have a common perception. If a person is sad, as you rightly noted, that the person is sensitive, A person is sad. We normally, even in our normal parlance, we say, "Isko to depression ho gaya." Is there a difference between sadness, depression, and psychosis?
See, I will tell you, अगर हम sadness की बात करें, so everyone is having his or her share of stress in their life, but everyone has a that no fighting mechanisms. Wasim Saab will be can tell more about that. There is something on defense mechanisms where a person has the ability to fight it out against any adverse effect. But when there is constant stress going on around, maybe whether it is financial issues, health related issues, or the environmental issues, those mechanisms get defunct, and then a person is more liable to have these no depression like states. And if we talk about sadness, uh, until and unless a person's functionality is not compromised, whether work wise, whether socially, financially, or work wise, till then a person is absolutely fine. But if it is compromising his day to day life, then a person needs help. So then we can call it depression. This stress and sadness everyone is having, and if a person is able to manage that, he is able to function properly. Till then, I may say it is normal, because everyone is having his or share of stress and sadness. But if it is hampering his day to day life, then a person needs help.
Can people help a person get out of these depressive states, out of the sad state of sadness? Mr. Wasim, I hope you got me.
Can you repeat the question?
I'll repeat the question. Can a person, like there are friends, there are family members, can a person be helpful in bringing up a person suffering from depression or mental health ailment? Can a person um, help him come out of such a state?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. As Dr. Junaid sir has told you that suicide is basically not a simple issue. It's not just about some person thinks of committing suicide in the morning and then he goes for it. It usually has a history that we need to delve deep into. Suicide or any other mental health issue is a biopsychosocial issue. It's not just a biological issue, it's a psychological issue and a social issue as well. Every mental health issue is a biopsychosocial issue. As Dr. Junaid sir has told you that there are brain chemicals that whose concentration gets affected, and then the person is suicidal, and then the person is depressive, and then the person becomes anxious about things. So there are biological reasons for somebody having, for example, depression, biological reasons for somebody having anxiety. Then there are psychological reasons for somebody's anxiety, depression, or suicidal tendencies. And then there are social contributory factors or predispositions to somebody's depression, anxiety, or suicide. Fine. So primarily suicide or depression or anxiety or any type of mental health issue is a biopsychosocial issue. Psychiatrists usually they treat the biological part of it by providing medicines, and then it tries to balance the neurochemicals, the brain chemicals, so that the person's mood gets stabilized, so that the person's anxiety gets handled. But then there are psychosocial issues, and the psychosocial issues are usually taken care of by the psychologist, clinical psychologist, for example. And now your question, can a person with depressive tendencies be helped? Yes, definitely. Any type of mental health issue can be helped with by a commoner and by a professional. We usually talk of mental health first aid. This is a concept that every person, every layman should be aware of. The way we have medical first aid at our homes, just say somebody has some bruises, and then he gets betadine wash, or he gets band-aid, or he gets sopramycin applied to the bruise, and then those small bruises get taken care of. Similarly, we should have mental health first aid, so that people commoners, common people, family members, friends, acquaintances, all of us, we are professionals, but at the same time, we are family members of some family. All of us need to know the basics of how to identify the signs and symptoms of somebody's depression, identify the signs and symptoms of somebody's anxiety, identify
We'll
the.
come to that, Wasi. We'll come to that.
Huh. Your question was about depression. Can a person with depression be helped? Definitely he or she can be helped, but provided those early signs of depression can, if they are spotted, for example, if the family members are able to spot the signs and symptoms of somebody's depression, if they are not given some cultural explanations as we have in our society, if somebody is depressed, then he is being said कि इसको नजर लग गई है. If somebody is depressed, then people say किसी ने तावीज किए हैं. If those cultural explanations are not given to somebody's depression or anxiety, then a person can very well be spotted right in the first phase of his depression. And if the person is spotted at the very first phase of depression, then it may not lead to something more serious where he or she may need some professional help. Yes, a commoner can help.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. Dr. Junaid, a very significant question your way. What is ADHD, or what we call attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? It's prevalent among children and adults.
Yeah, it is. It is very much common in children, and it has now good amount of patients I have seen, and good amount of patients have been reported with something called as adult ADHD. So there is attention deficit, there is a deficiency in attention, and there is something called in hyperactivity. So usually it is something which is usually seen in which is picked up by the teachers at school, and they will complain to their parents that their child is not attentive. He keeps on fiddling around. He doesn't sit at one place, or he may take someone's belongings and he will just throw it away somewhere. And when that boy is brought to us, we witness in our clinic chamber that he will not sit at one place. He will just stand, run away, or stand on the tool, or just create mischief. And this is the best time that a child's behavior should be picked up and should be treated. But there has been a number of cases where it is not picked up, and then an adult himself will come to us. And inattention is something which is commonly seen in adults. And what they will say that when we are putting in so much of effort in our job, but the dividends and the outcome is not that great. So even then, it is treatable, it is manageable, but help from their family members, from their siblings is very much important.
Dr. Saab, would it be right to say that it is ADHD is not a short-term health issue, but it traverses into the adult?
Yes, that's what I'm. Yeah, it is now. That's what I'm saying. Now, a number of case reports, and even I have seen, even other doctors would have seen. Even I may not be wrong. Even Wasim Saab might have seen adult ADHD cases. There are a number of patients which come to us for the treatment. The is that patient himself will come and seek treatment.
Yes.
So that awareness is there in the society now.
Dr. Saab, is impulsiveness that you mentioned, which is a part of a symptom of ADHD, is it a contributing factor for the suicidal tendencies in the adulthood or in the adolescence?
Yes, it has.
A person.
Yeah, right. See, if we talk about impulsiveness, we also talk about holding on to himself, that temperament. Those people have that not short-tempered. They will get angry on a small things. So then they take up this decision of suicide or committing suicide. Usually, if they are soft tempered, that patience is a lot in them, then usually a patient will hold on to himself in a better way rather than a person who is short tempered. Patience is not there, who has seen good amount of anger in them, and that leads to short temperedness, and that leads to a person committing suicide.
Thank you, Dr. Another question your way. What is bipolarity? We often hear of this person as a bipolar. Is it prevalent among the young age group? Is it also one because of causes of suicides and uncontrolled anger in a person?
I didn't hear the last point. There was some disturbance in between.
Question: what is bipolarity? Is it prevalent among the young age group? And is it also a contributing factor for suicides in the society? The uncontrolled anger in a person.
See, when we talk about bipolarity, there are two illnesses which are there. One is depression, and second is mania. Depression, usually a person is sad, there is no interest in work, sleep gets hit, appetite issues are there, helplessness, hopelessness. There are a number of things a person will feel. And mania is absolutely U-turn of depression, where there will be a person will be very talkative, there will be increased energy, they will start, or they may think that they can do anything out of their capabilities and capacities. Yes, it is very much common in adults and youngsters, very much common. Okay, and if we talk about, yes, definitely both mania as well as depression, both are contributory factors, but mostly is something where a person can usually takes up this decision of committing suicide. And in mania, very less chances are there, and very less cases are there. Why they will do it? Because they feel that they are superhumans, they can achieve anything. I will just tell you an example. A patient of mine, why he committed suicide? Because he thought when he will jump into the well, he will come out alive. Nothing will happen to him. So because of that aggressiveness and that high temper, he jumped into it and he committed. So then he died. And depression, obviously, because of his sadness, they feel dejected. They lose hope. They feel helpless, hopeless. That is a very much contributory factor. If we take between mania and depression is more common to cause suicide.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Another very, very significant question to you, which is very much in debate nowadays. Has death become a disease and the contagion of suicide is catching up? How so? What you refer to as copycat mechanism, copycat phenomena. So is death a disease? Is it a contagion among the youngsters, among the youth?
See, death, I can't say it is a disease, it is inevitable. Everyone has to taste death. But the way a person dies, that is something we may, there are some events which is out of our hands, most of the events, except suicide. If a person is having CA, cancer, or some will have a heart attack, some will have a stroke, someone now this COVID is there. If a person is dying because of that, so nothing can be done. Even when a doctor is failing in that, so nothing. But in suicide, it is something a person is deliberately doing, and it can be stopped. And since I have already told that copycat, see, the thing is, we need to decide whom to make our role model and whom to follow. Because if we take that actor Rajput, Sushant Singh Rajput, so there had been a trend, and I believe a good amount of fan followers those, so they felt so dejected because of that. They felt very bad because I think there was a movie where he was against suicide. He was preaching against it. Then he himself did it. So if a person is a hardcore fan of his, he may turn into it. So we need to be very much sure or very much decisive when we are selecting a role model. And copycat mechanism, right? See, if a person has to die, so why to put up a video before committing suicide? I'm not against anyone. I'm just saying that if a person is feeling sad, why to publicize it? What message is he or she trying to express?
So we are
I believe
glamorizing.
if
We are
if
glamorizing them.
right, it is something we need to take into account. I believe media has to play a very important role. Like I believe when COVID started, everyone was talking how many were positive. No one was focusing on how many were getting well, who were getting positive. So that positiveness is within us. Two options for everything. There is a green meadow and there is a black cloud. There is a head and tail for everything. So it depends on you whom to follow and what to expect. If you are if you want to be in a happier world, be happy, so you can just look into the greener aspect rather than just focusing on that black shadow of a person or a event.
Right. Dr. Saab, what would you say to these social media users who put up these pre-suicide videos and make them viral, make them go viral? What would you suggest to them?
See,
Advise me to them.
I think the person who are planning, I will tell them, please don't do it. Life is very precious, and it is just one chance God has given to us. You may never get it again. Okay, and after that, a person is planning to do it, he should reconsider. And at the end, I will say that people who are putting these videos, I would say kindly refrain from doing all these things. Don't publicize these things. I don't think this is giving a good message to people around. I believe I am not against anyone. I know you are suffering. We are here to help you. We are just a call away. We are, our OPD is working 24/7. Our hospital, um, even most of the OPDs were shut down during COVID. I believe psychiatric OPD was running all the time. We had telephones put on newspapers and all. So if you want help, kindly take help. Kindly seek help. Don't feel that if you take up a psychiatric consultation, you will feel you will become covered. Actually, the most brave person to take up this consultation because you are willing to get help rather than people who will just sit down and just expect for mercy without taking help. So my message will be kindly refrain from committing suicide.
And publicizing these videos on a large scale so that rest of the people who have suicidal tendencies do not watch these videos and become impulsive and commit suicides. Dr. Saab, I would like to ask you,
Right.
what kind of coverage do you want the media to give such cases of suicide? A deterrent coverage or an awareness coverage, which will create awareness, or
I think
that which will create deterrence?
I think awareness is very important for
More
mental
than
health
deterrence.
issues.
More than deterrence.
I believe
Or should it
my
be both
opinion.
ways? Should it be both ways, deterrence
My
as well as awareness?
if both are there, that will be great. But at least do something. I have already put up in the beginning. I just want the stigma to break. I just want the stigma to break. I think Wasim Saab will also agree to this because this is something which is hurdling a patient to come to us, and that is the problem. If this would have not been like no, the people would not have seen this as a stigma. People would have openly come to seek treatment, help, but that stigma is stopping people to come to us. So if something is done about that, I think everyone will be more than happy to accept that if this will happen.
Surely, Dr. Saab, that would also prevent these suicides of youngsters. Dr. Saab,
Definitely, yes. Definitely, yes.
what are the short-term and long-term effects of an attempted suicide? When people attempt suicide, when youngsters attempt suicide, what are the long-term and short-term effects on their psyche?
See, when a person commits, they are usually in shock, grief. They had something called acute stress disorder, and if it goes on, then this depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, or anxiety will be more prevalent and commoner in them. Uh, and I believe taking up these events, I think that has a huge impact not on only on the patient who has done it. It has a huge impact on their family members, and it has been seen once a person has done, there are more chances that a person will repeat it. That's why we should never neglect a warning call, a warning message from a person when they will say